Welcome into the College Football Every Game on the Board podcast. Week number 8 is here, and we got the top of the card Wednesday, Thursday, Friday games, plus the top of the Saturday card with our leadoff hitter at Jeff Nadu on Twitter. He's Jeff Nadu, the big man on campus. Welcome in, Jeff. How you feeling, buddy?
What's up, Drew? Yeah, I'm very happy, very excited. I started off the week last night with a winner. South Alabama's team total over 34.5. They put up a big number on Southern Miss. So, yeah, very excited to get into the card this week.
Absolutely, man. Are you liking this Conference USA Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday action? Are you a fan?
Yeah, listen, I think more football is great. I can't say I bet every single game, but, I think I can identify decent spots. And, it was a weird night last night at Conference USA. Liberty had a real barn burner against Middle Tennessee State. West Kentucky went down to Jacksonville State. And it seems like the one common theme is Southern Miss and UL Monroe are really bad. So that's something to keep an eye on.
All right, guys, getting into the card here. Wednesday night, 307, 308. We're going down in rotation order, and then we'll hit the top of the Saturday card, all the weekday games in this one. So we got FIU and Sam Houston State kicking us off here. 7 o'clock Eastern, Wednesday night. -5, -5.5. That's what we're seeing Sam Houston State. I believe the Bearcats up against FIU, the Golden Panthers, 42 being the total. You liking anything in first game of the card?
I mean, I always try to give you a thought on every game. I want to make it clear. I didn't bet either of these games tonight and won't be. That said, when you look at Sam Houston, I've talked to you about the level of schedule that this group's played. It's quite good. It's hard to come in knowing that you're not going to make a bowl game or nothing like that. It's hard to then face a schedule that good and expect to do well. Look, I mean, they're 0-6 straight up, but actually 3-2-1 against the numbers. They've actually been quite good. However, this is the first time they're going to be a favorite as far as I can remember. They're also nearly a touchdown favorite. Look, I think the goal for Sam Houston is to get off the schneid and win a game. Do I think they'll win? Probably. Do I want to bet on them to win and also cover and also win by a touchdown? Not particularly. I think they probably get the job done. This is a good defense in the end. FIU seemingly been a complete mess. But I think if you're FIU, I mean, the season is not all lost. I mean, every group, the goal is to get to a bowl game. I think if you're FIU, you have to kind of look at it and say, we have a shot here. I mean, we have Sam Houston. We still have to play Middle Tennessee and Jacksonville State, all winnable games. If you win all 3 games, you go to a bowl game. And you look at last week, Drew, prime example was Sam Houston. I mean, you have an opportunity in a winnable game. You lose by 14 to New Mexico State. I just don't know that Sam Houston should be a favorite at all to anyone. I think you make case for both sides. Gun to my head, I'd actually probably lean FIU.
I like that, Jeff. And we joked about it last week. I ended up going to that FIU UTEP game. I know you told me not to. But I went, I checked it out, and one thing I took away, because there was no one there, you could go sit wherever, is UTEP, they're up front, like their offensive linemen were so much bigger than FIU's defensive linemen, and they would just get a push every single time. Other than that, I thought the two teams were like pretty fairly matched. And I don't think Sam Houston State has the same type of like upfront, I guess, like just girth that UTEP had to kind of push them around. That's why I think FIU catching points +5.5, plus their quarterback should be back. I was reading reports where Jenkins might be out, but I just watched Mike McIntyre's kind of pregame press conference, and he said, no, he looks to be going. So all of that, Look, it's not a big play for me, but I do like FIU +5.
Yeah, these are the kind of games that I always look at and say, like, I really don't want to venture an opinion on them. It's just not a game I'm interested in.
Fair enough, Jeff. We got next game up here, a doubleheader, and it is the battle for I-10, New Mexico State and UTEP, a rivalry game here. These two teams aren't very far apart. Beautiful part of the country there, right next to the Mexican border from New Mexico to Texas. If you've ever taken a drive there on I-10, -3, New Mexico State as the road favorite, 47.5 being the total here, Jeff. And it's a beautiful setting in the Sun Bowl for this rivalry game.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the prettiest parts of the country. Obviously, if you know anything about, as Drew said, the geography. I mean, you're right at the Mexican border. You're almost in Chihuahua, beautiful state in Mexico. Now, as far as the game's concerned, I think the landscape is obviously significantly better than the game. I will say, and I think you saw it, I think that there's a thought that Cade McConnell, who was, I believe, the third or fourth string quarterback at UTEP, might be the best option for Dana DeMel in that group. I think if you're both these teams, you obviously need to win. I mean, I think when you get into October, late October, you got to start kind of looking at these teams and saying to yourself, how many games do we have left? Because the goal of any of these teams is to get to an elusive bowl game. I lean New Mexico State here. I just think they're kind of in a better situation. I think Diego Pavia is just a better quarterback than whoever UTEP's going to throw out there. My thought is I'll lean with the boys from the state of Land of Enchantment. That's what they call New Mexico. I think the boys from Las Cruces probably get the job done here.
Like it. Plus the fact Las Cruces is a beautiful town in itself. Really good Mexican food there. I stopped through on a drive from Las Vegas to Florida one time. And I agree with you. Pavia is a quarterback. He's pretty good. UTEP's quarterback, I also agree with you there. I don't know that it's that big of a drop off. I just think UTEP kind of runs the ball a lot, guys. Maybe 47.5. Clock might be running a bunch. Neither
these
team
games
fast.
In these games, 47.5 seem a bit high. I mean, these two teams are both kind of inept at putting the ball in the end zone. It's just if you're putting this at like 40, that's probably too low. But I mean, UTEP is 105th in the country, I believe, in touchdown rate in the red zone. I mean, they're really low. I don't know that New Mexico State's much higher. So if actually New Mexico State's lower, both these teams really struggle to put the ball in the end zone. A lot of field goals. That's why you're getting the 27-13s, the 17, 10 games like that. A lot of field goals.
Sure, guys. Yeah, maybe look towards the under. Them flirting with 50 might be too tall a task. As we'll turn the page here to Thursday, October 19th, 3:13, 3:14, 7 o'clock Eastern. JMU, that's James Madison at Marshall. We're seeing JMU -3 in the hook as the road favorite. 49.5 being the total in Huntington, West Virginia, big man.
Yeah, this is a great game for Thursday night. I mean, you have an undefeated team in JMU who I feel like I've kind of been I have a good read on. I liked them last year. I love them this year. I mean, Drew, I'm going to keep saying it. This is one of the best rushing defenses I think I've ever seen at this level. I mean, they're downright dominant against the run. I just want to put this into perspective. Nationally in rushing yards per game, Penn State is second in America. They allowed 67 yards per game on the ground. JMU averages 39. They're almost half the amount of Penn State. 39 rushing yards a game. That's pretty unbelievable. You look at per carry, they're just over a yard per carry. And when you look at Marshall, the name you're going to hear a lot is Rasheen Ali. He's one of the better running backs in the country you probably haven't heard of. This is a guy that has really just been great. Over 5 yards a carry, 11 touchdowns, over 600 yards. He's off of a pretty nice game against Georgia State in a losing effort. You have to ask yourself, can Fotcher, the quarterback, move the ball? Or Fancher, I believe his name is. Can he throw the football? Because to beat JMU, what I noticed last week against Georgia Southern is if you are one-dimensional against JMU, you'll lose the game. So, Drew, if you have a team that can do both, you might move the ball. But Georgia Southern only throws the ball, right? Mm-hmm. So it almost seemed like JMU was kind of prepared for it. They didn't have to worry about the run. So they could throw another guy back in coverage, and then they struggled. When I look at Marshall, if Fancher can move the ball a little bit, I feel like Ali can maybe break a run or two. You got to stick with the run. Sometimes teams get away from it because they can't do it. But I'll tell you, it's a hard matchup to get involved with. Throw in the fact that recently Marshall's defense has been a disaster. I mean, I don't know what happened to this defense. You got an undefeated team here with just a ton of motivation. It's so hard if you're Cincinnati to get a team to buy in because you can't win a bowl game. You can't win this conference. Yet they still every year look like one of the better G5 teams. I really like this Dukes team. I would look towards laying the number here.
Like it, big man. Great breakdown there for the first game up on Thursday. We got a doubleheader here as we will go to Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it's the Rice Owls at Tulsa. The Hurricanes -3 across the board as the home favorite, 58-59 being the total here, Jeff. Rice at Tulsa.
I was really surprised to see Rice as a dog. I think this game's kind of a coin flip. And I told you before, I just don't give 3 points, especially in a game like Tulsa. That's not a home crowd worthy of 3 points. It just isn't. I think what this line's telling me is this is a coin flip, and you're just going to get 3 points because you have to travel from Houston to Tulsa. Throw in the fact that I actually think Rice is probably the better team. I like JT Daniels. I think he's surely the better quarterback in this game. I also throw in the fact that during games like this, when I have a coin flip, I'm going to look at some of the intangibles. What do teams do in the red zone? What do teams do from a punting standpoint or maybe from a special team standpoint? You look at Rice. This team is top 11 in the country in touchdown percentage in the red zone. They score touchdowns. They don't score field goals. Okay, in games like this where it's a coin flip, I have the better quarterback. I think Bloomgren's team's the better team here. I think these defenses kind of cancel out. Give me Rice, a group that's covered 4 of 6 this season. They've actually been a pretty tough little out, and actually have covered 2 of 3 as a dog. So I like Rice.
The Rice Owls.
The Owls.
Big man on campus.
Nice
All right,
dog.
we got +3 pretty much across the board, guys. Friday Night Lights up next. SMU and Temple. Speaking of the Owls, -20.5. That's SMU, the Mustangs, as the road favorite. 55 being the total. I know Temple's been not very good, Jeff, putting it nicely, but SMU laying 3 touchdowns on the road. Interesting handicap. You like anything in Philadelphia?
So I'm trying to understand this game, Drew. So take away Akron, who is probably the worst team in America. I think you would agree with that, right?
Sure. I'd say Akron or Kent State, maybe.
Yeah. Let's just say they're a bottom 2 team in America. You take away Akron, who the Temple Owls played on September 2nd, first game of the season, and Norfolk State, who is a bottom level FCS team. You take away those 2 teams. Every team that has played Temple has scored 36 or more points, even Rutgers. You get the last 4 games. Temple's allowed 41, 48, 49, 45. And now you have, guess what? Probably one of the better offensive teams you're going to see coming into Philadelphia. Now, the only thing that concerns me, and I look at this team total and I see 37.5. Temple's defense sucks against the run and the pass. They play fast. They only throw the ball. So their drives are short. You have a lot of possessions to your opponents. Preston Stone's a quality quarterback with an offensive coordinator, Rhett Lashley, who likes to move the football and run up and down. The only thing that concerns me is this is a Friday night game in Philadelphia. Are you just kind of down for this game? You just aren't, you're just kind of going through the motions. That's the only thing that makes me worry. That said, Temple against anyone with a pulse in the FBS has scored 36 or more points. I'm just maybe this is some of the issue that I've had this year in college football. I'm a couple games below 500 on the season, and it's either been just rough beats or I'm overthinking in certain games. I'm likely going to play this one. SMU team total over 37.5.
All right, look for the Mustangs to score some
also,
points there.
Real quick, I double check on a full game over or playing Temple. Temple's quarterback, EJ Warner, went through warmups last week, didn't play. Okay. You want to see what's going on with him because he's quite important to overs when you bet Temple because they can actually score. He's a good quarterback and they throw a lot. So an over looks a lot better when he plays. You want to see what's going on with the son of Kurt Warner.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah. Jeff, I got to ask you, man, the Phillies looking strong, the Eagles as well. What are your thoughts there with Philadelphia sports right now?
Yeah, I think the thought is, will the Phillies lose again? This team just looks unstoppable. I mean, offensively, all they do is hit home runs. They're squaring in on every pitch. Pitching's been terrific. I think a lot of people were wondering whether Nola could deliver a really good game or two. He was fantastic last night. The bullpen was shut down. I think the thought is, can they sweep Arizona? I think this is definitely a weak opponent. I mean, I look at Arizona and ask myself, how the hell did they get to the NLCS? I mean, this offense stinks. I don't really love their pitching staff, but hey, that's baseball for you this year. I think you kind of you say to yourself, if the Phillies can't win this year, especially after losing in the World Series last year, I don't know what. I think they're going to kind of hope they can get through Arizona quick and maybe Houston kind of shows up and makes that a series. But I'll say, if we really got to hope Texas wins, I think it'll be a great series regardless. But Texas looks really like a great opponent. But Houston would be too, and kind of a rematch. Eagles, I think they have a little more heartache this year than I think we think. They have more problems than I think people might think. They also have a really tough schedule coming up. But it's good times at Philadelphia. And then you got the worryless Sixers coming, which they just kind of just annoy people. So
in Sunday night, it's my Dolphins for sure, Eagles, man. You got any opinion on that one?
Well, it's funny because Drew, I got this girl, man. So I've been dating her off and on for 3 or 4 years. And I feel like sometimes we may have a future, sometimes we may not. But we really see been hanging out again. And she says Sunday night, she says, so around where I live, we have a lot of like really big Halloween attractions. Like they're super nationally popular. She's like, Sunday, let's go have dinner and then let's go to the thing. And I'm like, thinking, I'm going to probably miss the game because listen, I'll be honest. If you choose football over women, I think you have major mental issues, just being real. So yeah, I'll be doing that. But as far as the game, I think the over is the play.
All right, man. Yeah. Life can be tough and you got to, watch those choices sometimes, guys.
No, so. I would never pick sports over a woman. It's crazy.
No, it's all right, man.
Behavior. Put your bets in and go. You don't need to watch it.
Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Football or women, but we'll head to the Saturday card either way, guys. October 21st, 323-324, 3:30 Eastern, Pittsburgh at Wake Forest, 45.5 being the total. We're seeing the Demon Deacons -1 as the home favorite. But guys, I've been waiting all podcasts to say this. Really happy to announce we have a sponsor, a sportsbook sponsor for the pod. Shout out to BetOnline, betonline.ag. And couldn't be more happy about it. And so go check them out. But really, I wanted to bring this up they're hanging Wake Forest -1.5 as the favorite. The rest of pretty much almost all the sports books just have -1. So if you like Pitt here, it's probably a good spot to go check out betonline.ag and get on the Pittsburgh Panthers. BetOnline, the game starts here. But after that, throw it over to you here, big man. We got Pitt, Wake Forest. What are you liking in the ACC matchup?
Yeah, BetOnline is one of the best books in the game. Been around forever, always originating. So yeah, I really like BetOnline, always have. As far as this game, this is your quintessential letdown game. We see Pitt do this every year. They go out and maybe hang with a team or beat a team. I had Pitt last week, one of my favorite plays on the board. But now you have to go on the road and you have to play, another game. And that's not easy to do. You look across the board in this game, it's hard to get involved because one of the things I know about Pitt is they always have a good defensive line. That's no different this year. They're averaging about 3 sacks a game, which is, I think, top 25 nationally. They're playing a Wake group that outside of, the two worst offensive lines as far as sacks allowed per game, Colorado and Wake, they both allow 5 sacks per game. It's just hard to maintain any offensive consistency with numbers like that. Throw in the fact that Sam Hartman's no longer on this team, and you have a guy, Mitch Griffiths, who just isn't very good. And with an offensive line that just kind of struggles, you also throw in the fact, Drew, that the worst completion percentage team in America is Pitt. They complete 44% of their passes. Just two ugly offenses. I like the under in this game personally. I just don't see a lot of consistency with either of these groups on that side. I think defensively is probably the strength of these two groups. I don't love totals in the 40s, especially the mid 40s, but with bated breath, I'll lean under the number. It's a letdown game, so I also would lean Wake, but I think this is like a 21-17 type of game.
Like it, big man. Guys, shout out to our official drink sponsor, Viva Tequila Seltzer, vivatequilaseltzer.com. Go check them out. 4.5% ABV, 0 sugar. And their owner, Steve Thurston, he's going to be interested in your analysis here, big man, as we got probably the game of the weekend, Big Ten action, Penn State and Ohio State. We're seeing the Buckeyes -4.5 as the home favorite, 45.5 being the total. We get the Nittany Lions at the Buckeyes from the Horseshoe. You liking anything here, big man?
Yeah, so the big game last week, Oregon-Washington, I leaned with the team getting points. And I think in games like this, I'll always lean that way, getting the points. I want the team getting points. And in this case, Drew, I was on a push in that game. Should have won. I think Dan Lanning made some bad decisions. But in this game, I could absolutely see it decided by 3 points. I think getting 4.5. I had this at 4.5. That's kind of where I would have put it. I'm going to keep saying this. This is the best Penn State team in a long time. Mm-hmm. And I think in a lot of great Ohio State teams, to me personally, this team is just a slight below that where they've always been. I think they're solid. I think they're really good. And they beat Penn State in every game since 2016. Only 2 have been decided by 8 or less points. So they haven't really been close. But again, this is a better Penn State team. They have a better defense. I'm big on Drew Aller. This is the game where I think we finally see Drew Aller on a national stage, and I think he performs. Do I think they can go in and win? Absolutely. And when you take a dog at 4 or less, you have to say to yourself, do I actually see them winning? Because there's not a lot of wiggle room here. I think this game could surely come down to the final possession. One thing I really think that jumps out again in these close, coin flippy type of games, over the years generally, Drew, at least over the last 3 years, Ohio State has been historically every year top 5 in touchdown percentage. They score points. That's how they score 40 points a game. This year, they are not. They are not in the top 20 in touchdown rate. But you know who is? Penn State. In fact, they are third. The reason Penn State covers every game and is always running up the score and playing so well is they score touchdowns in the red zone. Ohio State, you know where they are? 69th in the country. They've struggled to get points and put points on the board. I think the offense, it's Penn State. I think they're the better defense. I think they're a better offense. If you're going to give me 4.5 with the better team to me, yeah, I think Penn State's a better team than Ohio State. Give me Penn State.
Penn State, the Nittany Lions, to stay within the number here, guys. BOL hanging the 4.5. It's 4 at other shops right now. We got another big one in the – yeah, go ahead, Big.
Just one other thing really quick. I think this is super, not being talked about in this game. Marvin Harrison is arguably the best receiver in the country. I think Luther Burden also is right there as well. But here's one thing to key in on. Penn State is one of the best secondaries in America. Yeah, they just do. Emeka Agupa, the other receiver for Ohio State, he was out last week with an injury. If he plays and doesn't play, that's important because one thing you can now do is you can double, you can bracket Marvin Harrison, you can send a safety to help. If Agupa's in the game, you can't necessarily do that, and they're a little bit more dynamic. That's an important injury. Either way, if you're going to be 4.5, I'm in. Give me Penn State.
Penn State, 13 straight covers, by the way, guys. It's pretty crazy. I mean, 13 straight regular season covers, I should say. And they're catching 4.5 here. Clemson, Miami up next, 8 p.m. from Hard Rock Stadium. We get Clemson minus 3-point road favorites, 48.5 being the total. Mario Cristobal and the crew dropping 2 straight games here, big man. It went from being the first time Miami jumped out to a 4-0 start for the last 5 years. Now they've dropped 2 straight. Man, has it turned on Mario Cristobal and the local media down here. But you liking anything in Miami Gardens?
Yeah, because I think what we're starting to see is Mario Cristobal doesn't want to take he only wants to take credit when good things happen. He doesn't want to take credit when bad things happen. And did I hear him say correctly that it was essentially the running back's fault that they fumbled against Jordan? I mean, no, dude, you should have kneeled. I mean, it's pretty simple. What are we doing here? That said, I mean, I think there's things to take away from that game against UNC. I know they won't do it, but I thought they played really well in the fourth quarter. And if not for the third quarter, I mean, they would have won the game. Again, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Van Dyke was good. You just can't turn the ball over a couple of times. But again, you lose 41-31 to UNC. A lot of people do that. Clemson, I just don't trust them on offense, right? This is, again, a team. Which group do I trust less or trust more? I don't trust either team. I would have no interest in betting this game. I guess I'll lean with the home dog, but I don't want to do it.
Okay, Canes in comeback fashion maybe here, guys, as we got Virginia, UNC up next. It's minus 24 I'm seeing. That's the Tar Heels at home. Speaks volumes about this, where this Cavaliers program is right now. 57 being the total. Virginia at North Carolina and Chapel Hill here, big man.
Yeah, I was kind of boisterous on, Virginia being one of the worst. I'm surely one of the worst Power 5 defenses, but this defense in general is not good. I think all of a sudden, Drew, what we're forgetting about is Drake May. I think he's very much a Heisman candidate. I don't know why he's not getting any love in the market. I think we have to, if you're going to buy it on Drake May, you need to do it ASAP, because Drake May has, and let me tell you why he's a Heisman candidate. First of all, he's in an elite offense. Tez Walker's healthy and playing now. That makes him a better quarterback. And they have some major games coming up, one of which I would have to think will be a game day game. It's against UNC or against Duke in UNC. College basketball just starting. Like, that's a perfect game. That's a big game. You got to play Clemson still. The sky's the limit for Drake May. And I think for that group, the goal is putting points on the board, beating up on bad teams. And when you look at Virginia, this group is horrible on defense. Horrible. I mean, NC State put up 24 against this team. BC put up almost 30. Tennessee beat them up. JMU beat them up. Maryland beat them up. I don't know about a side here. I would probably lean UNC, but I don't love their defense. I think Virginia is better offensively than people give them credit for. I'd be looking at a team total here for UNC. They're elite offensively. They should get into the 40s here.
Staying in the ACC, next game up, Boston College and Georgia Tech. We're seeing the Rambling Wreck minus 4.5 point home favorites, 58 being the total. You liking anything in downtown Atlanta early Saturday?
No, not really. I'm not always a big fan of these like ACC middling type of games. Two teams, 3-3, both need to win the game. It's a big game. Once again, you get into the late October into November, got to start looking at, if you're a BC or a Georgia Tech, how many winnable games do you have left? And if you're Georgia Tech, I definitely lean this spot. I know why they're the favorite. I think they're the better defense. I think they are the better offense. I like Haynes King. No real opinion. Lean Georgia Tech.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like Georgia Tech here, guys. Keep in mind, they've won each of their first 2 ACC games. They beat Miami in that crazy one with Mario Cristobal, and then they just beat Wake Forest, both of those on the road, and both by 30 against the spread points, meaning they've been underpriced the last 2 weeks. They're at home here against Boston College. I like Georgia Tech. We got Baylor, Cincinnati up next here. Early Saturday, 12 noon Eastern kick. 50 being the total. Bearcats minus 3.5 as the home favorite here, big man.
Yeah, you have to wonder what the thought process was in the locker room after the Baylor, the last game they played, where they lost by 25 going into the bye week. Yeah, I've heard there are some things in with Dave Aranda that this isn't really going very well. Recruiting's been bad. The portals kind of hurt them. The NIL stuff. They seem to me like a group that's just kind of, I don't know, maybe given up. I would hope you'd have a good performance coming out of the bye. That's kind of, I think, where you'd expect it to come. I don't think Cincinnati's a very good football team. Baylor's got an extra week to prepare since he got beat up last week. I feel like things are kind of catching up to Cincinnati. This team hasn't won in a long period of time. I think both teams have to kind of view this as a very winnable game. But I kind of wondered, for as bad as Baylor's looked at times, not really sure Cincinnati should be a favorite to anybody. Another one that I won't be playing. Neither team is backable to me.
We got a couple games left here, guys. Feel free to chime in the live chat or below in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. Also, wherever you're downloading your podcasts at, every game on the board. We're here throughout the national championship, guys. So on Twitter as well, at Jeff Nadu, at Drew Martin Betts. Shout out to DDB. He's saying, when we were talking about women or football, he's saying women plural, big man. Wow. Stepping out there.
I think it's when you're talking about kind of where I'm going with the conversation that I was having, when you have like a wife, like let's say you've been with your wife for 10 years, like I guess I could understand why you would want to watch football over being with your wife because you're with your wife all the time. But as someone who's single or as many of you know, I'm dating multiple people multiple times. I want to be with women. I don't really, as I get older, I don't care about, like, I put my games in. I don't want to watch them. Now, if I'm here, I'll watch them. But It's not gonna like I'll go out and like hang out and party over like watching a football game. Like I don't. It's not an interest to me.
We got also a bunch of comments here, big man. People really loving your breakdowns. We got Iowa Dan. He likes how you come at every game individually different. Most cappers, just kind of what they're gonna say before they even say a word. Deep Fry saying good show. Rich saying love the show, my friend. 3443 saying he's been loving us since back in the SBR days. And these are the comments from YouTube on last week's show. So feel free to chime in there, guys, on this week's show.
Drew, I'll take this opportunity as I'm getting a lot of good comments to say this. The last couple of years for me, I've been with Barstool, right? So I can only work with Barstool, and I wasn't able to work with a lot of the other kind of old school friends that I have, whether it's you or Donnie or Gabe or any of these people. And it's really nice to just kind of, I call what I do retirement. I don't feel like what I do is a job. I enjoy it. It's fun. The show I do, this. So it's really nice to just pick projects that I want to do and do them. And you just have fun with this again, because for a long time, I really wasn't able to do that. Barstool has their own thing, and I'm more of an not analytical, but I like looking at games and just sitting in the lab looking at stuff. And this is where I'm really happy. So I'm glad people like it. There's so many people out there that use these stupid, like all these analytic people. Like, look, I don't know what the hell DVOA even means. I don't really care about it. Like, but they use stuff, and I feel like they try to sound a lot smarter than other people. And it's like, no, just tell me, like, is a team good against the pass or good? Like, I don't need to hear all these big words. I try to make it in layman's terms. And Drew, they say whether or not they like me or not, I can really describe something well. And that's what I take pride in. So I'm glad people like it, and it's easy to understand.
Being able to tell a story, it's a huge talent in life overall, I would say. So you're able to do it at Jeff Nadu on Twitter, the big man on campus. As we got South Florida and UConn up next. The Bulls heading up north, always kind of a question mark. -2 as the road favorite, 54.5 being the total. We get South Florida at Connecticut here, big man.
Yeah, I didn't understand this total. Have bookmakers seen these two defenses? Because I have, and they're not good. Whenever UConn plays anyone that can't stop anybody, they score points, which South Florida would be a team that South Florida is a disaster on defense. How they only give up 17 to Alabama, I guess that just shows to show you that weather can be a real kind of indicator. But South Florida, every game they play is high scoring. They've given up the last two games, they've given up 112 points. You can't do that and win a lot. I like the over. Will I play it? Probably not. But this kind of seems like one of those bad games where, it's like 41-37 or something. Both teams need the game badly, especially UConn. So, yeah, I lean over.
I'm looking at the weather here. It's Storrs, Connecticut. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but looks like 60 degrees with rain in the forecast. I don't know.
Here's what I'll say. And I noticed one thing around here, and I've talked about this for like the last 6 weeks, every Saturday it rains. Like it's nice all week and then rains every Saturday. But I noticed this week it's supposed to rain for like an hour or two on Saturday, and the rest of the day is supposed to be like cloudy and if not sunny. So I don't put, it's not like a big nor'easter like last week where it rained all day. So I think we'll be okay weather-wise here. And as we know with totals, it's a lot of it comes down to wind. That's more important to me. I think this is just one of those bad game bowls where, we see it kind of like that Florida A&M game for South Florida where it was 38-24. I think this is a back and forth football game.
We got big brother versus little brother up next here. Michigan State. And I say that tongue in cheek here, guys. 48 being the total, -24. That's the Wolverines as the road favorite in East Lansing, big man.
One thing I wanted to do for Michigan is, since the start of 2022, so last season and this season so far, how many games Michigan has won by 30 or more? And I'd have to probably imagine they're the best, if not the best, team in the country doing that. I've seen more games with Michigan 52-10, 38-3, 49-7 than I've ever seen before. It seems like every game they just dismantle their opponent. And I think there's a lot of, if you're Michigan, there's a lot of motivation in this game. Again, the fact that you're undefeated, you haven't allowed more than 10 points to any team this season. Michigan State's quarterback situation is a complete and utter failure. And I don't know if you remember, Drew, last season, Jim Harbaugh was calling for criminal charges against certain players in that fracas after the game, which I believe they were brought. This is a game where if you're up 38-7, you are going to try to score every single time you have the ball. I'm very much in the camp that you don't lay points like this a lot of the time in conference play. I think this is the season. Michigan State is not a good football team. This is a group that off the field is a complete mess. Their quarterback play has been a disaster. And remember I mentioned, Drew, when you're laying big numbers, does the team you play with score touchdowns? Michigan, they have had 34 red zone attempts, one of the highest amounts in America, 27 touchdowns. That's very good. Michigan is elite. I would lay this number. I was surprised it was this low. I would put it at almost probably near 30.
Guys, we got one game left. We'll get a best bet from the big man on campus. By the way, he nailed his best bet last week. Penn State team total over 47.5. Got there easily as they scored 63, which correlated with my best bet from the podcast last week. Penn State minus 41.5 as the best bets cruise last week on the podcast. We're looking to do it again this week. Big man getting another best bet out here in just a second. Last game for section number 1, guys. We'll bring in mid-major Matt at 4:10 Eastern here on Wednesday for part number 2 coming up next, starting with Duke and Florida State, hitting the next 15 or so games. Here we go, big man. last game on the slate for part number 1, 3:30 Eastern, 339-340. Oklahoma State at West Virginia. Mountaineers minus 3.5 point home favorites, 50 being the total. Interesting handicap because Oklahoma State's offense is playing better with the quarterback switch. West Virginia coming off that tough loss on the Hail Mary, but yet playing better football overall. What are you liking in this Big 12 matchup? A good one.
Yeah, I don't like much here. I've had a hard read on Oklahoma State. Really don't know kind of where to place them. As you alluded to, since they've kind of changed quarterbacks, they've looked a lot better. Very solid win last week against a good Kansas team. I don't know why it took so long to go to Alan Bowman. I've always thought he's been a pretty good quarterback. But Ollie Gordon, their running backs, looked good as well. I got to give Neil Brown a lot of credit, though, as well. I mean, they have been really good. I thought this was a bad football team roster-wise, but Neil's done a nice job. I think they kind of recognized that maybe he was on the way out, and they really kind of rallied and played for him. This is a tough one. West Virginia is a tough place to go and play. I definitely think 2 or 3 points warrants playing there. This is a big game. I mean, these two teams are 4-2, man. There's a lot of season left. Probably lean West Virginia, but it's hard because that hook could very much come in. I kind of had it at first to 24 wins. I could see this being like 24-20. Kind of like the under a little bit, but so do gamblers. I mean, this one opened 51.5. It's down to 49.5. Remember, early action in the week, so Monday, Tuesday, even into Wednesday, that's generally sharp action. So I lean the under here.
Follow Jeff on Twitter at Jeff Nadu. We'll get a best bet from him right now. As shout out to our sponsor, betonline.ag. The game starts here. Check them out, betonline.ag, and Viva Tequila Seltzer, vivatequilaseltzer.com. Check out their 4 flavors, 4.5% ABV, 0 sugar. If you don't like hangovers, Viva is for you. vivatequilaseltzer.com. Big man on campus. Final thoughts, best bets for the listeners. You got anything to throw out?
Yes, I do. I always have something. I'm going to go to a game that is probably off the beaten path here, but it's kind of where I'm looking. 3-4-3, 3-4-4. I'm going to lay the 5.5 with Rutgers. It's not a situation that I do a lot, a road favorite, but there's a couple of things here in play. Rutgers is bowl eligible, Drew, with a win here. Tell me if you thought that would happen. I mean, you're 8 games into the season. Rutgers is 5-2. This is such a huge thing if you're a Rutgers, winning a game like this, becoming bowl eligible. throw in the fact that Rutgers is 4-1 over their last 5 as a favorite against the number. They've been a very solid defensive team under our boy Greg Schiano. Look, say what you want. I thought they were pretty good over the last couple of weeks. I know they lost to Wisconsin, but Wisconsin's a good football team. Gavin Wimsatt has been good enough, but it's really been the run game that's been the story of this team. Indiana's a bad football team who, they can't move the ball whatsoever. They're off a lashing against the Michigan Wolverines. I look at Indiana and just feel like they're kind of in over their head, and they're playing a team that right now is looking at this and saying to ourselves, this is our opportunity. Let's get to a bowl game. I don't like Indiana really on either side of the ball. I don't think they're good defensively, and I damn sure know they're not good offensively. Give me the Rutgers Scarlet Knights to cover 5.5.
Rutgers, and we can give you -5, big man. It's available multiple shops, including Bet Online here. So Rutgers -5 for the best bet for the big man on campus at Jeff Nadu on Twitter. I'm on Twitter at Drew Martin Bets, where you can find the podcast at Every Game on the Board. Please rate and leave a comment if you like it. Also on YouTube, Every Game on the Board. And please comment below, guys. It does help us out. For Jeff Nadu, I am Drew Martin. We'll be back with section number 2 coming up shortly. Jeff, see you next week, buddy. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Drew.